Hi everyone, welcome back to week 4 Basic Excel and Data Analysis Skills. This week we'll be looking at last week's challenge and working through the problems. We'll also be starting our report, looking at a few things that we need to take into consideration when building the report. Let's get to it. Okay, so this is week 3's data that I wanted you to insert into week 2's table. What we're going to do is we're going to clean this first. Now, I suggest that you clean this data before you enter it into your other worksheet. We're going to whip through really quickly and do exactly what we did when we started cleaning the last lot of data. Okay, make sure your table has headers. So we're going to whip through and make sure all these columns are accurate. See, we've got some blanks here which we need to fix. So let's have a look at that. Okay, we are going to assume that these ones are all going to be done before the 17th of May. Okay, so we're going to move into the cell here, this bottom cell where it says 17th of May. And then I'm going to just move to the black cross or black plus sign and double click. And now as you can see, this has populated with the dates following each other. What I want to do is actually just drop down the 17th of May all the way down the bottom to the bottom. So if you go to this little symbol here and click, and you can, instead of filling the series, you can select copy cells, and that copies that all the way down. And here in a few of these cells here, we've got a few errors. So I'm going to unselect all of those and then just select the ones that aren't correct. And they're just clearly typos. So we're going to just fix that now. There we go. Click clear filters. Okay, hours on job. Any blanks? No, there's no blanks, but there's one here for 112. I think it's pretty safe to assume that that's supposed to be 12. Now remember, you're recording all of these steps as you go along. So the next analyst can have a look and see what you've done, see the steps you've taken, and correct any errors if they find them. Now, as you can see, I've left out labour cost here. I'm not going to fill this in now. I'm just going to now transfer all of this data to our other worksheet. Okay, the way I'm going to start this, at the moment we're not able to use VLOOKUP because our store numbers aren't, the new store numbers aren't with the old store numbers. So we're able to use copy and paste for this one. So this is how I'm going to start. Okay, so now I've got those. Now we can use VLOOKUP to add the rest. Okay, I'm going to ensure that everything state-wise is Queensland, so I'm not even going to use VLOOKUP. I'm just going to drop that down easily enough. I'm going to go ahead and use VLOOKUP and add all these extra columns in. I'll stop the video here and see you in a minute. I have used VLOOKUP and added all the extra data. I have also performed the formula for cost per audit. Now we're going to move back into sheet 2, and before I hit the refresh button on our data, I'm going to copy and paste these values just to see if there's any change. We want to make sure that they're pasted as values though, but keeping all the formatting correctly. So now we are going to move into our data tab. Alright, so moving into our data tab, we're going to press refresh all. And that's changed quite a bit. All right, to bring back up our field list, you go into Pivot Table Analyze and click over here, select Field List. We are going to put back, for some reason store number has been taken out, so we're going to put back store number at the front here, and again we're going to put that back to count. If my computer wants to play ball here we go. Okay, so this is interesting. Tech 1 and 3 now have the same number of stores they visited. They have the same number of hours per store, and this is where it changes and gets interesting. Tech 1 has only 19% of the revisits, whereas Tech 3 has 45% of the revisits. And this is where the total sum of hours decreases, the percentage of total sum. Now, what's interesting is that the average cost per audit is very small. It's less than $3 or $3 max. So that's quite interesting between Tech 1 and between all the techs. When we go to build our report in a few minutes, we're not going to look at all of these numbers. Not all of them are relevant, and not all of them will give a clear indication of what's happening. So in a few minutes we'll discuss that, but first of all we need to find out how long it's going to take our techs to do the proposed works. And this was part of your challenge for week 3. So we're going to move into our table and we're going to look at estimated hours, the column K. And down the bottom here we've got a sum of, it's going to take 1,090 hours roughly to complete these works. And now I want to break that down into a 5-day week. How are we going to do that? Let's work it out now. Okay, the way we're going to work out how many weeks it's going to take us is we're going to first write down how many working hours there are in a week, and that's 40. We're then going to add times that by 3 because there's 3 techs working. Okay, and that gives us 120 working hours in a week. And now to figure out how many weeks we're going to need to allocate, at the very least, we're going to divide the 1,090 by the 120. And that gives us just over 9 weeks. Now, obviously, this is continuous working hours. This doesn't account for stock ordering, scheduling, or even just travel to and from site. This also doesn't include any delays. If one of the techs gets sick, this doesn't include anything, any incidentals like that. So this would be a minimum requirement, and I would be inclined to increase it to 10 weeks just to be on the safe side in our report, because although we haven't included any of those incidentals, we do want our project manager to understand this. So we'll need to make that clear in our report. Now that we've finished our analysis, we can start creating our report. I've left a basic template in the links below to give you an idea of how to start your report. Basically, you want to use the graphs that we've created throughout the last few weeks and insert a few of them, the appropriate few, into your report. All we do is Control-C, make sure you're clicked into the table, Control-C, open your report, and Control-V. And that'll drop the graph into your report. Now, this is a very basic report. You could go into great detail in other reports, but for this, it just needs to be simple, it needs to be clear, and it needs to be clean. So I suggest having a play around with colours and the theme, and next week I'll show you how to do that with your graphs, but have a crack at the report, and if you're feeling brave, send it in and I'll have a look at it. So we've got 4 main points for this report. We want a short introduction, the body, which is going to include a few graphs, want your findings and friction points, and then we want a short conclusion summarizing the findings or friction points that you've found. It's as simple as that, really. Let's move on to our next challenge. Okay, so this week's challenge is, what other data would you want to collect for the next series of audits? Basically, what do you think we need to know that will make it easier to identify problems in the future? And also to have a play around with your graphs, the color scheme and the style of graphs. See what works best for you, what you think is visually appealing, and see what you like. Okay, so that's it for this week. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next week. Bye.